Let's talk to Tom Waters, Associate Director of the IFS, because front page of the Times today, checks on sick benefit claimants to increase. The most severely disabled may be exempt from the new Liz Kendall work and pensions rules, but basically people with permanent or degenerative conditions may never have to be reassessed. But as part of a promise to try and save £1 billion, ministers are setting out plans today to deal with an ever-spiralling bill. How's it exactly going to work? The Institute for Fiscal Studies, Tom Waters is here. Tom, very good morning. So, I mean, how is it going to work? I mean, I don't know what Liz Kendall's going to be able to pull out of the hat. Several rabbits, I would imagine. It's going to be difficult, this, isn't it?
I mean, certainly the government finds itself in a very difficult position. We've seen really significant increases in spending on these benefits, disability and incapacity benefits, since the pandemic. And, you know, it's no secret that the government's finances aren't in the happiest state ever. And so they're looking to make some savings. And of course, that means taking cash away from people who are on these benefits and are disabled.
Yeah, I mean, because at the end of the day, when you start to try and sort of make arguments as a politician, and I'm not against the arguments, because we've spent the last 2 days having conversations about how many people are in receipt of some of these benefits who shouldn't be, but as soon as you start trying to address that, and as soon as you start bringing in, I mean, I remember they did this a few years ago. They brought in one of these third-party organisations who were quite hard on people, and they managed to get quite a lot of it wrong. I think they were based in Northern Ireland. I can't remember their name now. And they were sort of chopping and slicing people's benefits and taking them away because they thought that they couldn't, supply enough information and all that kind of thing. As soon as you start trying to kind of separate people out, it becomes massively problematic, doesn't it?
I think that's right, is when you're looking to kind of tighten the system, make it more difficult to qualify for these benefits in the way you say, naturally that's going to be, I guess the goal is to take it away from people who perhaps are less needy than others. But of course, these assessments are definitely not perfect, and so any reform isn't going to be perfect either. Right. And that means we'll end up taking cash away from people who are considerably more needy.
Right, because when you look at the increases in things like people claiming for, not so much, physical disability as mental disability, claiming for anxiety, claiming for ADHD, many more people now being diagnosed with that, many more people taking medication for it, many more people saying that as a result of that they need this benefit, that benefit. I mean, it's a bit like trying to go after people who've got a bad back, isn't it, in the end?
Yeah, and a lot of the increase, more than half the increase we've seen over the past 5 years has come from people claiming for mental health problems. And I think an important part of the context here is these benefits were really designed and developed in a world where really it was largely for physical health conditions. But over time, the caseload has shifted more and more to be about mental health. These assessments were really kind of thought up as being something to really figure out whether or not you had a physical problem.
Yeah, and also from a sort of sociological point of view, and I don't know whether you wish to address this point, but the Britain that was around 30 or 40 years ago, and we were talking about this just a moment ago with Isabel Oakeshott, where people were kind of ashamed to go on benefits, where they really thought that they must get a job, no matter what it was, they should actually work and contribute to society. That whole ethos, the work ethic, seems to have disappeared. Daily Mail had a piece yesterday on the front page saying the end of the work ethic, because so many young people now are saying, well, we'd rather not really have a job that's particularly stressful, we'd rather not have a job that keeps us away from our house for 5 days a week, we'd rather not actually work at all, some of us, we'd rather just go on benefits.
I think these things kind of seem to come in waves a little bit. If you went back to the early 90s, there are actually a lot of people on these benefits then, and then there was a reform to really try and get those numbers down, and then we've sort of seen things going back up again in the last few years. But I think you raised an important point about the age difference, because historically, often these benefits were targeted at people who were a bit older and were quite close to state pension age anyway, maybe for the last 5 or 10 years of their working life. Whereas it is becoming more common now for younger people to be on it. So if you look at 20-year-olds, for example, about 7% of 20-year-olds are on disability or incapacity benefits today, which is quite a significant increase even from just a few years.
It really is. Listen, I don't know what we're going to do about it, but we'll watch with interest this afternoon and see what Liz Kendall has to say. Tom Waters, thank you very much indeed, Associate Director of the Institute for Fiscal Studies.